guess I'm going to pretend we are. For better or for worse. I can't see that thing well enough to tell what it's telling me. Well, y'all, I'm playing with one of my new cameras tonight, and I'm playing with a lot of stuff that I'm not too familiar with, so this may never even make it up onto YouTube. And if it does, it may be one of those silly ones. I like to do a lot of silly ones, so you won't be upset. With your permission, I'm going to read to you briefly out of the dictionary before I start my spoken word music essay tonight, because I want to use an old definition and then go on to the current or new definition. The word I'm looking here is meta. M-E-T-A. You hear it a lot these days in phrases like metadata or metadata if you choose to speak your Latin better. You'll hear it in a lot of, sometimes it's used all by itself, like, oh, well, that's just too meta. So I'm going to read this to you. Meta, definition 1, changed in position or form, altered or transposed. That's as in the word metamorphosis, like butterflies do, from caterpillars to butterflies, or metathesis, which is a long way of saying I changed my mind. Okay, it's the equivalent to trans, as in I transformed or I metamorphosized. All right? It's also used to mean after. You're familiar probably with the word metaphysics. You know, that's after physics. Physics is stuff that physicists can measure, and metaphysics is like magic. Stuff that some people believe is real and some people don't, but whichever, win, lose, or draw, the physicists can't measure it. Okay? That is after, sometimes, as in medical terms, equivalent to post. It's also behind or hinder, at the back. In anatomical terms, it's equivalent to dorso. Also, supposedly in an analogy to metaphysics, it is going beyond, higher, or transcending. Metapsychology, used in many nonce coinages. A nonce word is a word that we just make up to use on one day and then we throw it away. It's just for the nonce. We just use this word right now, this one moment. It's a nonce coinage. And you hear a lot of that. We hear this word, I'm going to leave out the rest of this, which is chemistry. We hear this phrase meta a lot in today's world in terms of metadata, which is data about data. Okay, if you have ever been an internet webmaster, especially in the old days before all these automated tools, when to be a webmaster meant that you coded all this stuff with all these brackets, and you wrote, you know, like EM inside a bracket to make something emphasized or look like italics, and then at the other end of that sentence you wrote another bracket and a slash and another EM, which means the EM part's over. Okay, in those days, which I was a webmaster in those days, and still am, in those days, metadata was data about data. When you created a website, you put up data and you said, you know, I created it, I'm Jeff McFadden. I created it using Netscape's editor, and here are a bunch of keywords that apply to it, blah, blah, blah. That's all metadata. And you also hear it. So I'm going to let that percolate away in your ears and settle down and go away pretty quick, and I'm going to start another key. You heard it a lot last year, or 2 or 3 years ago recently, when there was all that spying stuff. They were talking about your phone records, and they weren't recording your speeches on your phones. They were saving what they called metadata, which meant they kept the phone numbers you dialed and how long you talked, the phone number you called from, the data about the data. Okay, well, the reason I'm going through all this today, this is going to be kind of a spoken word essay about spoken word essays and why I choose to do them and how the language works. before or it hides behind. In case you're curious, I'm playing an F. Your 1, 4, and 5 in F are F. 4 is B flat. 5 is C. Your 2 chord in F is a G chord. F, if you're reading music in the written genre, it's 1 flat. The key of F starts on the F note. Goes up through 7 unique tones to its 8th or repeated tone. And among those 7 tones, in order to have your necessary pattern of whole steps and half steps, you have to play a B flat note. Because it's F, whole step to G, whole step to A. Now you gotta have a half step and there's only a B flat there. Then you need a whole step to C, and a whole step to D, and a whole step to E, and a half step to F. Okay, so that's F1, G2, A3, B flat 4. So when I said that your 4 chord is going to be a B flat, that's the chord built off of the major scale based on the 4 note B flat. You know, it's a real genre. When my first wife and I were dating, there was some records that were on the back in the day when we had records, these were 33 and a third RPM vinyl records. Can't remember the guy's name, maybe Rod McEwen, but that may be wrong. But he considered himself to be a poet, and I considered himself to be a poet. Those were the first spoken word essays, spoken word music essays I ever heard, and they were great. Hang around with a beautiful woman at night. Just before I ever went to Vietnam, so you know, I'm like 18. She's 16, 17. But that's spoken word music that stayed in my heart. So that girl, there's still a place for her there right now, even though I'm married to somebody else. Got her place. Nobody's ever gonna take it away from her. Hear guys talk about their wives, you know, their ex-wives, and that my ex-wife was a bitch, my ex-wife was a slut, my ex-wife was a... My ex-wife was an angel. Worst thing she ever did was marry me. It was my fault. It was entirely my fault. But you know, you can't get there from here. We did music together in those days. She had a voice like an angel. She could sing harmony with a train wreck and people would stop and listen. I happen to know because I am that train wreck. I could remember the words, and she couldn't. People say, Jim, why don't you just sing and let him play that guitar and shut up. But I had a little advantage, I knew the words. She probably could have learned the words, it was probably just mercy. Let me feel like I was important. airplane I flew home on flew backwards across the international date line, and it became the 14th of July, 1968. The stewardess threatened to quit serving me drinks because I wasn't 21 anymore. But she was just joshing. This plane had nothing on it but people who were coming home from Vietnam. Old infantry. 21 years old and old. I'd had maybe 5 showers, maybe 7, maybe 8. Hard to keep clean in the jungle. Started singing together. On this guitar I was learning to play. Half-ass good at it over the course of the next 27 years. Then she moved out. Couldn't stand it anymore. I said, screw this, man, I ain't got nothing. I was drinking so much in those days it didn't matter anyway. Anyway, I got lonely for music. Pop that harp. Pop that harp right there. Didn't have to sing to play the harp. A lot of years went by. She moved out in May of 1995. So you can figure out about how many years went by. A few years ago, guitars and all that. Man, that's pretty cool. Songs I never sang with her. Got 2 or 3 that I've dragged out. Made peace with that thing, you know. I got a band to play with, you know. I got Shade Tree. They've given me a home, place to find new music. I'd be playing with them tonight if my knee was healed. Although I'm feeling a lot better after this operation. Can't drive yet, so I can't get over to the next town where we play on Wednesday nights. Shade Tree. I don't do spoken word music like this. But I love that band. I love singing with them. Without Spud on the bass, Sandy on that big super dreadnought 12 string, Sean on all of the many things he might play, from keyboards to auto harp to sticks to rocks to tambourines to harmonicas to Lord knows. The only reason I sing when I'm not with him is just to practice, so that when I'm with him I can sing different, halfway decent. I love to tell stories almost as much as I love to play music. Even though my stories tend to ramble around and not necessarily go where I thought they were going when I started them. And so then we have friends. again, as I do so often, as I would always do if I were always remembered to. I thank you for coming along. I thank you for your company this evening. I appreciate you listening to the things that I do. I hope that they give you pleasure. They give me pleasure, and that's the only point, really, of it all. It's just music and spoken words, and I do sometimes get a little personal, and I hope that doesn't offend you or make you feel uncomfortable. Tonight was one of those nights I could have cried, but I didn't. Yet. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I hope that the spoken word music that I have created on your behalf has added something to it. Thank you very much.